The fallout from Jasmine Crockett's explosive takedown of Kristi Noem didn't just end in that Capitol hearing room, it reverberated across the country like a thunderclap. It was the kind of moment that doesn't just go viral, but etches itself into political memory, becoming part of a larger national reckoning. Crockett's words, "You are scaring America for votes," weren't just a personal call out to Noem. They were a mirror held up to an entire wing of American politics that has made fear its lifeline. And as people replayed the clip, analyzed her body language, her tone, and the sheer audacity of her truth-telling, one thing became clear: this wasn't a debate, it was a reckoning. In the hours after the exchange, right-wing media scrambled to spin Noem's performance as concerned patriotism. But even that felt flat. Commentators on both sides of the aisle couldn't ignore the sharp contrast between Noem's frantic appeals to vague threats and Crockett's piercing insistence on truth and accountability. Social media exploded with clips of the confrontation. It was trending within minutes. Political influencers, comedians, and even some Republican veterans admitted Crockett had done something rare. She stripped fear of its costume and showed the manipulation underneath. Crockett's approach wasn't just about dismantling the message, it was about revealing the machinery behind it. She noted how fearmongering had become a profitable tool in right-wing fundraising. "You scare people into thinking their homes will be bombed by Iran next week," she said, "and suddenly your campaign donations double. It's not national security, it's political theater with a price tag." Her words felt less like a rebuttal and more like a long overdue indictment. And it resonated, not just with liberals, but with centrists and disillusioned conservatives who were tired of being fed fear as policy. She brought receipts. Crockett cited multiple nonpartisan reports that contradicted Noem's claims, including intelligence assessments from the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. She reminded the room that real leadership doesn't rely on phantom threats and propaganda videos. "If we're serious about threats," she said, "then we need to be serious about facts. You don't guard the nation's future by hallucinating its downfall every time polling dips." There was an unmistakable emotional weight to her delivery, too. Crockett wasn't just there to argue, she was there to protect. She spoke about the real damage fear-mongering does to communities, the way Iranian Americans and Muslim Americans are repeatedly targeted during these waves of suspicion and paranoia. She mentioned the little girls who stop wearing their hijab to school, the families who cancel vacations, the fathers who are detained at airports and miss their children's birthdays, all because someone like Noem decided that stoking fear was more profitable than building unity. She drew the link between propaganda and policy. "Every time we turn Americans against one another with fear, we chip away at the strength we claim to defend. The Iranian people aren't monolithic, and neither are we. When leaders generalize threats, innocent lives pay the price." Her voice cracked slightly when talking about children being bullied in classrooms. But she pushed forward. Her vulnerability didn't undermine her strength, it enhanced it. It reminded people watching that empathy isn't weakness. It's the very thing this country is starving for. Meanwhile, Kristi Noem, clearly rattled by the intensity and precision of Crockett's response, began to fumble with defensive rhetoric, relying heavily on phrases like national vigilance and unpredictable enemies. But the contrast couldn't have been starker. Noem spoke in platitudes and shadows. Crockett spoke with receipts and sunlight. She didn't just expose the dishonesty of the message, she exposed its cowardice. "You don't love America by terrifying Americans," Crockett said at one point, her voice rising with clarity. "You love America by protecting her, by telling her the truth, by refusing to exploit her pain for political power." The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in the room felt the shift. This wasn't just about foreign policy anymore. This was about the soul of leadership. News programs across the spectrum began re-airing the confrontation, often without much commentary, because the video spoke for itself. Independent journalists started publishing breakdowns of the statistics Crockett referenced. Homeland Security insiders anonymously praised her for defending the integrity of national intelligence. Veterans groups applauded her refusal to let fear-mongering lead to yet another reckless military entanglement. For many, it was a reminder of how quickly the post-9/11 era spun fear into forever wars, and how desperately this country needs leaders who don't repeat those mistakes. Young voters, especially, reacted with energy and gratitude. TikTok was flooded with clips of Crockett's speech, remixed into musical beats, transformed into animations, stitched with reactions from stunned viewers. This is how you speak truth to power. One user wrote. Another posted. I've never felt more seen in a political moment. Crockett's raw, no-nonsense style struck a chord with a generation fed up with performative politics and desperate for something real. Her staff later revealed that they had received thousands of emails and messages from around the country, some from independents, others from conservatives, all saying the same thing: thank you for not letting fear win. Some shared stories of being scapegoated during wartime, of hiding their names, of changing how they looked just to feel safe. Crockett's words had pierced through the noise and touched something much deeper. And the political establishment took note. Democratic leadership praised her for setting the tone. Even some moderate Republicans admitted, off the record, that Noem's fear-driven speech was ill-timed and poorly delivered. But what made Crockett's stance so powerful wasn't just the content, it was her refusal to back down. In an era when viral moments are often followed by hollow apologies, Crockett stood firm. I'm not sorry for telling the truth, she told reporters later. I'm sorry it still needs to be told like this. She spoke later on a podcast about how exhausting it is to have to constantly respond to hysteria with facts. I don't want to spend my time debunking conspiracy theories or cleaning up after political arsonists, she said, but someone has to. And if I have the mic, I'm going to use it. Kristi Noem, for her part, tried to walk back some of her more extreme claims in the days that followed, issuing vague clarifications about potential but unconfirmed threats. But the damage was done. Her credibility, at least in that moment, was completely eclipsed by Crockett's bold truth-telling. Polling out of several swing states showed a dip in Noem's favorability, especially among independents who said they were tired of fear being used as a political crutch. Meanwhile, Crockett's star only rose. She was invited to panels, news segments, student town halls, and military veteran forums. But what made her response so enduring wasn't just the attention it generated, it was the principle behind it. She didn't take on Kristi Noem for clout. She took her on because silence would have been complicity. And that distinction, so rare in today's media landscape, made all the difference. She didn't just challenge the fear game, she shut it down. With conviction, with compassion, with facts. And for millions of Americans, that was a breath of fresh air. It was a reminder that politics doesn't have to be a circus. That governance doesn't have to come at the expense of dignity. That leaders can, in fact, rise to the moment instead of manipulating it. Jasmine Crockett's message went far beyond that one room. It entered classrooms, break rooms, dinner tables, and social feeds. It challenged not just Kristi Noem, but every leader who's chosen fear over facts. Every politician who's whispered terror into microphones and called it leadership. Every public figure who's placed ambition over honesty. She reminded the nation that courage doesn't come from warning about imaginary threats. It comes from standing firm in the face of real manipulation, and calling it out for exactly what it is. And maybe, just maybe, this moment will be a turning point. Maybe Americans will start demanding more from their leaders. Maybe the fear game has finally met its match. If you believe this moment mattered, if you felt the truth of Jasmine Crockett's words, the power of her voice, and the importance of her stand, then do one thing right now: like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who still believes that facts are stronger than fear. Because truth deserves a platform, and leaders like Jasmine Crockett deserve our attention. Stay tuned. This movement is just beginning.